we're live. I think we are. Okay, awesome. Okay, so today I'm just gonna keep working on the drawing that I was working on last time. I've advanced it a little bit behind the scenes because I wanted to be able to show you different steps today. So I've basically put in the basic colors, the flat colors for most of the characters except for one. So I'm gonna do the last one so you can see how I did it. And then I'm gonna keep going. So this is the last character that I have to color with flat colors. Hey Yogi, good to see you. How are you today? Right, so for this character I have the base. So I'm going to use this base to avoid painting outside the lines. Creating a new layer and making it a clip-in mask. And then I just color, as usual. I'm not going to worry too much about painting within the lines in the character. I can clean that up later. But you can see that because I have the layer mask, I'm not going to paint outside of the character itself. And here... Hey Alan, good to see you. Thanks for checking out the stream. How are you today? Here I have as well the book with the characters, so I can look at the colors. And I also did something that I didn't do last time. Here it is. So I used this software called your ref, which is basically a window that you can resize any way that you like. You can zoom in and out, and you can put in references. I normally use it, for basically every illustration that I make. This time I'm making a fan art of these characters, so I just have references of them. But normally for other illustrations, I would have maybe references of hands in this position, or maybe an old book like I have here on the table. Basically anything that I would need to look at to draw it correctly. I didn't do it this time because it was a bit improvised, but it's always good to have. Yeah, let's continue with the flat colors. And I'm looking at my reference here on my second monitor, that's why I keep looking that way. Software name. Oh, Yoga, the name of these... Yogi, sorry. The name of this software is Pure Ref. Maybe I can even put it in the chat, actually. Here it is, I hope. You can actually get it for free, or you can give them a tip. I think it's, whatever you want to do. But it's really good software. You can also make it a bit more transparent with Control minus and Control plus to make it less transparent. So it's great for using references, and also for checking if your anatomy or position is okay in the drawing. If you have some photo references in PureRef, I find it really useful. See if we can find a nice green. It would be so much easier to just copy paste the image here and steal the color, but I find it a good challenge to look for it myself. Okay, this is good enough, and I can always change it later. be a bit darker, I think. Let's do one pass and then you can change it with the sliders. Okay. I think that's a bit more similar to the original character. And now let's clean it up because I don't have masks for this. Not within the same character, so I have to clean it up with the eraser or the lasso tool or whatever. There's many ways to do it. Many ways to do it. This bit we can just select and delete. And that's it. All right, this is the last bit, and I think I might be able to do it with a selection. Yes. Okay, now we just need to clean up this white color. What I'm doing now is exactly the same that I did for the other characters. Last time when I left the stream, they didn't have any colors on them, but yeah, basically I did whatever I'm doing now with this character. Sometimes I don't know why I use the mouse instead of the tablet. I don't know, out of habit maybe. And that's it. Let's do the hair. And because we already have these two, we can take advantage of that and create our next layer beneath. Don't you paint with small brush size to fill those parts? To fill small parts. You mean Yogi? Yeah, I guess. Well, let me fix something that I just saw here. Yeah, so for example, now that I'm doing the hair, I could pick a really small brush and go in here and try to paint it like this. But well, here it doesn't make a lot of sense because I already have the mask, so that's going to help me with this part. But for inside the character, I could also go in here, be really careful with the small brush, do like this. But I don't know, there's many ways to do it. I personally prefer to get a huge brush, paint everything, and then erase little details rather than paint small details darkly with the small brush, if that makes sense. So you can either be really careful at first and paint it slowly, or you can just paint it all over and then be really careful with the eraser. I'd rather do the second option. That's just personal preference. They both work just fine. Okay, and here I can see some mistakes. Well, so you can see that next to the outlines, the color looks a little bit weird. You can see the color of the background, and if I turn the background off, you can see that it's white, and that means that there is no color here in the base, because this is the clipping mask of the base. So wherever there's no base, there's no dark color. So I have to fix the base. And when I paint over it, you can see that the little error, so to speak, is fixed. And I think that happened because when I made the selection to color this part, I forgot to expand it. So it went just up to the line, to the line art. It didn't go under the line art, and that's why it looks so weird. I have to remember that for next time. I might have to fix the whole outline. Maybe not all of it, but most of it. That's okay. can fix it quickly and it'll look better. So right now I'm not actually painting with the dark color, I'm painting with this light color. But because I've painted on top with a mask, it shows us this pink color. And with this one, I do have to be careful because this one is not a mask, so I can paint outside the lines. So in this case, Yuri, I have to take a small brush or even a pressure sensitivity brush and be really detailed. Here as well. Oh, and here as well. I definitely should have been more careful with that selection. I'm amazed that some people are able to paint everything in one single layer. I mean, that's also a perfectly okay way to do things. It's not my preference, but yeah, definitely some people do amazing stuff with only one layer. Now I have to fix the details of the hair. So now it's the part where I take the eraser and I remove the color wherever it shouldn't be on the correct layer. So this one, not this one. I think that's it. Okay, we're still missing a few things. Let's look at the reference. So it's this character here. So I want to look at the color of the eyes, color of the lips. The earring, we can't really see the little green bit. Oh, I'm not gonna do that. Okay, let's do the eyes. For the eyes, I'm making a new layer for the iris because I want to make clipping layers on top of that layer. So you can make, you cannot make clipping layers on top of clipping layers that I know of. I mean, if someone knows how to do it, please tell me, because that would be super useful. This color looks about right. I mean, it's the same from the cloak, so it's gonna look good. Yeah, I like it. Now the lips. Let's use a similar color. Here, because it's such a small area, I am using the brush directly. Small brush. Instead of painting with a blob and then erasing. Looks about right. There's something strange about this face. I think the anatomy might be a bit off. But I can touch that up later. For now, I have most of the flat colors. The only thing left is the background. Oh, and this other character's mouth. Bit too orangey. Better. Now we're done. Except for one thing. I don't know what these are called in English. I'm just gonna call them pencils. Yogi says, oh, pink. Oh, yeah. Do you mean the hair of the character, Yogi? It's a bit strange that she has pink hair, but I like it. Oh, I see another little mistake here. I'll fix that later. Now I'm going to do the pencils, quills, whatever they are. And for this, because they are so geometrical, I guess, I'm going to use the polygonal lasso to save some time. Oh, okay. Yeah, I get it, Yogi. Yeah, it looks a little bit strange with lines only. But yeah, it's supposed to be her open mouth and her teeth. But yeah, with line, it looks a little bit strange. You can't quite tell what it is. Okay, another pencil done. Let's do the last one. I actually forgot to give this character a pencil, but okay, maybe it's over here somewhere. Now let's fix a couple of tiny things that I'm seeing now before I move on to the next step. Because the more I advance, the harder it's going to be to change things later. Not all things, but a lot of them. This is weird. Okay. So behind this layer, there was some of this color. You can see the outlines of the hand. I'm going to get rid of that because if not, the lines are going to look a little bit fuzzy. That's a lot better. I think that's it. I have all the base colors for the characters. Now I can start adding some details, but first I'm going to give this table some color. And I'm going to create a new folder called background. You know what? I'm going to create 2 new folders. They're free after all. So for this one's going to be for the background, and this one is going to be for the table. And I'm going to put the table on top of the background, because that way it's going to cover whatever we have going on here. And let's find a nice color for this table. Let's try this one first, since we have it here already. Yogi asks, what was your aim in your childhood days? Good question. I had a lot of different things that I wanted to be when I was a kid. My main one was that I wanted to be a comic artist. I loved a lot of famous comic authors and characters. I loved Dragon Ball. I loved Naruto. One that in Spanish we call it Tintin. I know that's not the original pronunciation, but yeah, I don't know the original pronunciation. I like Asterix and Obelix. Yeah, all of those classic, really famous comics I loved, and I used to read them all day. And I would also sit down and copy them, because that's what I wanted to do when I grew up. And now I do draw comics from time to time, short ones. I'd love to make a longer one with a good story, but the story part I find quite challenging. I'm okay with drawing because I'm used to it, but writing a good story to go with your comic is a whole other world. I don't know how to write a proper story. But yeah, when I was a kid, I used to draw a lot of characters and a lot of comics as well. So that's why I still like to do it in my free time. I think I'm going to change this shirt so that they're not all the same color. Make it a little bit more interesting. Let's see. I don't know. Be a little bit lighter. I mean, you can barely tell the difference, but no, I think you can. I think you can. It's really warm in here. Can't get enough water. Okay, so we have a color for the table. I'm not too happy with it, so let's change it. Sure what I want. So when I'm not sure, I just do like this randomly and just land on whatever feels right for this drawing. A little bit more orangey. Not sure which one I like best, actually. I'm just gonna leave it for now. And I think having background will also help me. So the background, this one. So let's work on that, I guess. Okay, so the main focus of this illustration is the characters. I really don't want to draw a background because it'll take a lot of time and it's not going to add much to this anyway. So I'm going to I do a trick, it works. So I went to a website where they have royalty-free images, and I downloaded this image. Just put it in the background folder. Delete this one. And there you go. So it's an image of a library. And yes, I know it looks awful for now. Let's give it a chance. I like the colors, the ambience. So let's try to make something with this. Now I'm gonna place it somewhere that looks kind of nice. Stretch it a little bit. I want to have really tall windows, but I don't want to overstretch the image. So what can we do? You can even see a person here, but it's okay. All right, so we have this for now. I know it looks awful. So this is the, oh, here it is. This is the name of the website. It's called Pexels. So they have royalty-free images, basically images that you can use for whatever project. It was in the wrong folder. Now it's in the right folder. Yes, Yogi, it looks like Harry Potter. That's kind of the vibe that I want, because these girls are witches, so I think it makes sense. Now that I've skewed the image, the perspective looks totally off around here, so I'm gonna try and fix that. So I'm basically gonna butcher this image for a little bit, but hopefully it will make it look nice. Okay, that looks really strange, but bear with me. All right, I have sort of the background that I would like. So now we are just going to blur it. I wonder if motion would work. Give it a try. Okay, let's do this one. Something like this, and let's also lower the opacity. Yeah, because we lower the opacity, the white of the background starts to show, so we want to have some color, like this color layer behind it. Now that looks a little bit better. Still not perfect, but it's giving us an idea of what the final background might look like. Let's paint over this a little bit. What brushes can I use? I'm gonna make sure I'm painting on a separate layer so I can delete it if it looks awful. First, I'm going to try something else. I mean, that doesn't look too bad. I do the same with the window next to it. The problem with this one is that it had the chandelier. See if we can get rid of it. No. Let's do a tiny little paint over. So the background doesn't have to look super defined because it's going to be blurred. But you can add a little bit extra detail. And anything that's going to be covered by the characters, we don't really have to worry too much about because it's not going to show anyway. For example, this part here, it looks awful, but the character is going to be on top anyway, so it doesn't matter. I really like the lamps. So I'm gonna add a little bit more detail to them. It's quite a warm light. Let's see. Yeah, that works. You can sort of fake this lamp candle effect. One's gonna be behind the character. This one too. Oh, this is the color sketch. Let's bring them back. Let's pretend that there's another lamp here, even though it isn't. Okay. That doesn't look too bad at all. But we can always come back to it. I'm changing the color mode of the background to see if any other color modes look better. I actually really like this one. Tell you what, let's create a copy of it. We can decide later. I think I like this one better because it's more saturated. But we'll see. Let's continue with the characters a little bit. No, I want to get the color of the background right before I continue because that's going to affect the colors of the characters. Okay, let's keep going. It's the lamps, and this is going to be some darker colors. I'm purely improvising here. So, see what we can come up with. I'm going to make the ceiling a little bit darker. I'm actually gonna put this on multiply. No, that should be fine. Okay, I have to use the normal mode because if not, some colors are going to behave a little bit strangely. Oh no, it should be fine. Yogi says for background, gradient blending is good. Actually, maybe we could add a gradient. We have a little bit of a gradient going on here from dark to light, but it might be nice to add a bit more. Let's see. That's a good idea, Yogi. Thanks. If we can make the bottom part a little bit lighter so we have a bit more of a gradient in our image. And I'm going to use blending modes because I don't want to, we already have removed most of the details from the background photo, so I don't want to eliminate even more details by painting over it too much. With gradients, that is. Let's see, maybe this one will work. I like that. Okay, not bad. So now it looks like there's more light where the characters are and it's darker at the top of the image where there's not much going on. Let's add some more fake detail. Made another layer for the background, which is this one, another folder, so that I have the hard light, the folder with the hard light effect applied on it in a separate section, so to speak, so we can have all the layers that are part of the background are not hard light. I think this looks better already, and I kind of know now what the color of the background mainly is going to be. So now I feel more comfortable working on the characters. Let me get some more water. All right. Actually, I quite like this. Didn't think of that, but we can make sort of shiny table. So we have the base of the table here, and when I hide it, I can see the rest of the image. And I kind of like that. So let's work on the table. Keep changing my mind. Let's work on the table. And I want this table to be some sort of wooden, old wood table. Harry Potter vibes. So let's give it some lines. I want to be mindful of where I place the lines because I don't want them to be exactly where, you know, where the arm ends or where the hand ends, because it doesn't look great. Maybe I can put one here. One here. I think that looks okay. And maybe I can even make them a little bit thinner. Because I don't want them to be... Oh, I'm painting on the table base. Let's make a new layer for this, actually. That's better. Funny table looks great. Yeah, I think so too, Yogi. I like it. I like this sort of look. And yeah, yes, it's gonna be a tiny wooden table. I think I know what I'm doing. If I hate it, I'll just delete it. But let's try this out. So now I have these lines. I have the base. So I'm going to do a little bit of texture for the wood. And what I usually do for wood is I pick the main color in both color slots, and then I pick a lighter version and a darker version. And when I pick a lighter version, I usually go up and to the left, and when I pick a darker version, I usually go down and to the right. I don't know why, I just always do it like that. And what brush are we using? Let's use this one. Let's make it a lot bigger. And lower the opacity. Something like this. Now I'm just going to paint some random lines. I have the mask, so I don't have to worry about painting outside of the tape. And I'm going to alternate between the two colors. Now I'm going to choose a new color, make some lines with it too. It looks a little bit more like wood. One more color. Okay, I'm happy with that. Now let's give it a little bit more texture. I don't want it to look like super realistic wood, but I think it's nice if it has some details. Yes, this one. I'm just going to paint some little lines and cracks. It's an all wooden table, so it's going to have a lot of, I don't know, a lot of things going on. It's not going to be perfect, seamless table. Yogi, what do you think of the wooden table so far? You still think it looks strange? Maybe you do, and that's fine. You can tell me. I value all opinions here. Okay. It's starting to look a bit more interesting. Ah, I didn't have shape dynamics. That's okay. I think that looks good to me. Let's try to make it shiny, even though it's wood. It can be wood with varnish. Maybe. Maybe I'm just trying to save face here. Okay, let's take the background and duplicate it. And let's also merge it. Might not work because the background is on different layer mode. Oh, Yogi, thanks. Mahogany or teak? I don't know what that looks like. Let me search for it. I think mahogany would look really nice. That's like a dark wood, isn't it? Like a really luxurious looking one. Yeah. Oh, I like it. And it can look shiny. Yes. There's many colors of it. Let's see. Yes, basically some shiny mahogany is the kind of look that I'm going for, but I'm not going to be able to replicate it exactly. So let's try pretend that this is mahogany. Maybe we can make it a little bit darker. Let's see. And a little bit more reddish. We can do the same with the texture. But to make it shiny, I need to be able to use the background. So I want to make the background all into one group, but because it has a special layer mode, I can't do it easily. Let's double check. So this is what I want, but without this. And actually, no, now it looks fine. Okay. So I have a copy of the background, and I want this to only show in the space here where the table is. But first, I need to rotate it. Vertically. Yes, that's it. So basically now we have an upside down reflection of the background. Something like this. But I only want to show on the table base. So I'm going to put this in the table group, and I'm going to create a layer mask for so shiny, let's say table reflection. And I'm going to create a layer mask. Let's say hide all. And now I'm going to select this table base I'm only painting here, and I'm going to reveal some parts of this layer. So now, in theory, bring up the opacity and flow. Wherever I paint, the reflection appears. Oh, I think that looks really cool. So let's try to bring it in. Let's use a soft brush and lower the opacity. Actually, it wouldn't reflect as much where the characters are. Maybe between them. Actually here as well. I think that looks really nice. I mean, that looks like a pretty shiny table to me right now. Let's see if I make it even darker, because right now the color of the table is very similar to the color on the background. I think that's better. It looks a little bit more like mahogany. Yogi, that was a great idea. Okay, I think I'm happy with it. And I can even add some more reflections. Let's call it table shine. And let's pick, so the brightest light be this one. It would have some sort of very light amber or orangey color. So I'm going to use that color to cast some really strong highlights on the table. Ooh. That's a bit too much. This is why you need to look at references. I need to look at references. See. Look for a shiny mahogany table. I'm Googling mahogany table. Shiny. This is what I want. I'm going to add some of the mahogany table images to my reference software so that you can see it, so that I can reference it. Okay, let me show you. So this kind of the look that I'm going for. Sort of darkish, shiny wood. I think it looks pretty okay. I just need some more of these really, really light highlights. See if I can achieve that. Okay, I think the color that I'm using is too orange. Let's try with a lighter color. I have to be really careful here. Not to overdo it with the highlights, otherwise it's going to be too much. I'm checking with the reference, and the highlights are vertical. There are some horizontal highlights, but mostly if there are windows or lights, they're going to be like this, vertical. Let's try do a few. A very small brush. No, I don't like this one at all. Okay. Do we have a shiny table? I think we do, at least for now. We can always come back to it. Just give it a little bit of a horizontal highlight, I think. And then we can move on to the characters. I'm trying to name each layer with whatever is on it, so I don't forget later. And here I think it might be good to use a brush with a little bit of texture. So let's try this one. Okay, this is definitely too much, but I think it is the texture that I want, so let's lower the flow and the opacity a lot. I think that looks really nice. Let's see if we can alter the brush a little bit. We can't? Okay. That's fine. Let's try not to overdo it with the texture as well. I think that looks quite okay. Okay, I'm happy. Next. Let's go back to the characters and let's start to do some shading. And for shading, I'm going to create a brand new layer. Call it shading. And because it's an important layer, I'm going to give it a violet color. Any color is good, I just don't want to lose it. The color sketch we don't need anymore, so we can remove the color and we can put it in another folder. So we have the shading layer, and to do the shading I'm going to select the bases for all of the characters. So we have all of these layers selected. Well, we actually need to select the content of them. I'm going to do that. And I think in some of them there's some little bases that are not filled, like here in the hair. Maybe I can fix that before I move on. I think I will. Oops. So basically now I'm trying to avoid these things. Okay, this one is fine. Let's see this one. Just a tiny bit here. Perfect. Now let's select these layers, content of the layers. Let's go to the shading layer. With paint, I like to use a very light purplish gray for the shading. Again, personal preference. And I am going to paint over the whole selection. Okay. Double check that I didn't miss anything. That's it. And now I will set this layer mode to multiply. Difference is not too evident. I'm actually going to make this color a little bit darker. Something like this. So this is the base for the shading, and now what I will do is create a layer mask, reveal all. And this is the magic part, my favorite part. With this brush, I am going to paint wherever there should be some light, or where I think there should be some light. And that's how I'll create the shading for the characters, basically. This is my favorite part. Before I do that, I'm going to add some more details on the characters, I think. And I will also need to adjust this selection, because right now the characters are shaded, but they will... Oh, 1 second. Let me pick this color. Go back to multiply. So right now I have this selection, but obviously the characters will also cast shadows. So I will eventually... Sometimes the shortcuts in Photoshop don't work. We'll eventually have to add some more shading here, maybe here, you know, under the arms, to make the characters basically interact with their environment. So we have that ready to go. Hey, Ali, good to see you. Thanks for coming. Yeah, I know. I've progressed a lot, I think. Well, the flat colors I mostly did outside of the stream. So today I only colored this character. Let's see. I'm about to add some details and then some shading. For the details... you know what these characters are missing? Some pupils. And I always struggle with this. It's really hard to put them exactly in the middle of the eye. And the layer for the eye shine I'm going to put on top of shading because there can't be any shading on top of the little shine of the eye. So I'm going to do pupils for this character first. I'm gonna use the same brush that I was using for the line art at first. And I like to have pupils with some color. I know in real life they're black, but I like to use a darker version of the character's iris. It looks nice. And what I really struggle with is placing them in the middle of the iris so that the character doesn't look crazy. Does she look okay? I think she does. Now let's add some detail to the iris itself. Need a lighter version of it. Let's go more saturated this time as well, and a darker version of it. Yeah, you're right for the very best part, lighting and shading. The most exciting and the most difficult, I think. Let's use some watercolor. I really like the texture of these. These are from directly Nadar. I bought them. They're really good. You can get them on. She probably has the bio on her, the link on her Instagram bio. Sorry. Okay, this one looks a little bit strange today. Why? It's better. I try not to add too much detail into the eyes because otherwise I would be here forever because I enjoy it too much. I think adding a little bit is nice. She's ready. Let's do Emma next. think this looks about right. Pick a darker color. Tiny details. I mean, no one's probably even gonna notice this, but I just like to do it. If this was a commission or something for work, I probably wouldn't go into this much detail because the image is probably going to be this size or smaller, so no one's gonna see. But it's just for myself, so I'm gonna enjoy adding some tiny details. Now I'm going to pick the eye color and darker version and a lighter version, and I'm gonna go less saturated here because with the green, if I go more saturated, it's gonna look very unnatural. And even though she is a witch, I want her eyes to look kind of natural. Take the watercolor brush. Okay, I think they look good. Let's go to the last character because her eyes are closed. So we only have to do one more. I feel like her eyes are a little bit darker, but I'm not sure. Make them a tiny bit darker. I think that looks better. Let's do the pupil first. A darker color. And the pencil brush. It's really tricky to place the pupils on the eyes. I find it tricky anyway. Okay, that looks about right. Watercolor brush. Let's add some details. By the way, if someone wants to do this but they don't have a watercolor brush, don't worry, you absolutely don't need a watercolor brush to do this. I just like the texture of it, but it's only your personal preference. You can do it with any brush. All right. Let's add some blush. And then we'll move on to shading. Oh, one other thing first, actually. Okay, some blush because it's going to make the character feel a little bit more alive. Look a little bit more alive. sure about this brush. Oh, I think this one might look nice. I haven't saved in all this while, which is a really bad habit. I just saved now, but always remember to save. Don't be like me. I think this looks cute. Blush. And I should actually select the base or do a layer mask so I don't add blush outside of the character. I think for this one we're okay. I think that looks cute. Let's give them a little bit of makeup. And for this one, let's use a more orangey tone, I think. Something like this. This pink doesn't go with her blush. Two more to go. This one, maybe we can even match her lipstick. A bit too. Let's try this one. Get a little bit more subtle. Smaller brush. Like it feels like painting with watercolors. Maybe I can remove a tiny bit. I don't want to overdo it with the blush. I like it. They don't look as flat. They look a bit more dimensional now, even with a little bit of blush. Okay, let's do a bit of shading now, and we can continue with the details later. So I put this purple layer on top of all the selections, put it in multiply, and I have my layer mask here. Let's imagine that the light is coming. I don't want, so there's windows behind them, but I don't want all the light to come from behind them because otherwise everything's going to be in the shade. So just imagine that it's coming from sort of in front of them and to the left a little bit, to my left. And then we can add a nice rim light on the sides. Yes, I like that. And also, let's add a little bit of low ground. I am a little bit all over the place. I know it's not the perfect way to do it if you're trying to teach someone to follow along, but This is actually how I normally paint. I think, oh, I'm gonna do this. Oh, and I'm also gonna do that. It's a bit hectic. But I like to do things as I think of them before I forget. Okay, that looks good. Yeah, Yogi, you're right. So every table would have a light on top. So the light would come definitely from the top, but I don't want it to be. Let's do an example maybe. So I don't want the light to be purely from the top, because then it would be something really weird, like only the top of the head, top of the nose, and it would be something like this. So I want it to be sort of from the top, but also a little bit in front and from the side. Yeah, exactly. Like in Harry Potter, every table would have a light on top. So it would be on top, but it wouldn't be on top of the characters. It would be on top of the middle of the table. So yeah, you're right. It would come from the top, but also from a bit in front. So yeah, let's try to do that. Right, so let's take, oh, actually, let's remember to paint on the layer mask and not on the layer itself. And for now, I'm going to do a rough paint over of where I think the light would hit. Let's not worry too much about details for now. And then we can refine it later. It's not going to be a super realistic lighting, but we're gonna try to make it as believable as possible. I mean, it's a fantasy world anyway. But that's the thing, we have to try find the balance between it being too unrealistic and too realistic. I think the shading would look more or less like this. And again, they look a little bit more 3D already, just with the shading. And now that I have a rough idea of where shading is gonna fall, I can go in with the brush and refine it. And for now, I'm only going to focus on the characters themselves. And after I finish that, I'm going to paint outside of this selection and worry about the shadows that the characters cast on the environment. Let's go. Now I'm going to use the default brush, this one, because I'm only going to be painting black and white on the layer mask. For things like hair and irregular shapes, I just try to use intuition to kind of guess where the light would hit. A bit of logic as well, but mostly intuition. Because it's very loose shapes. It's not like shading a cube. And I think we're so used to seeing light shining on objects just generally that I think when something looks really off, we can tell. Hard part is figuring out what it is exactly. This character already has a little bit more detailed shading. So let's keep going. Okay, I'm happy with this one. We're only missing this half. Basically, this is how I would do the shading now for all of the characters. It's also a little bit tedious, and maybe there's a quicker way to do it. But this is how I usually do it. Things like clothes, we can even use shadows to create a little bit more volume. So now, for example, this part here looks completely flat, but if we do like this with the shadow, even though we haven't really painted any surfaces here, we can make it seem like the sleeve has some volume, some wrinkles. Actually, here we need more light. That's it. We have one character. Yogi, what time the sun sets in my city? I'm not sure at the moment. Must be. It must have set a few minutes ago. It's like 9 o'clock here, 9 p.m. So I think it's around that time. What about yours? That's only in the summer, by the way. Now that we have summer schedule, it sets quite late, but in the winter it sets at like maybe 6 p.m. or something. I don't really like that. I like to have long days, but how the seasons work, I guess. We have the shading done for this character, and I now basically have to do the same for the rest of the characters. I'm going to show you one more step on this character before I call it a night, and I will continue next time. Now that I have the shading, sometimes I do it before, sometimes after. In this case, it doesn't matter. But what I'm gonna do, let me correct this bit of shading first. What I'm gonna do is add a little bit of detail to the hair. And I'm going to create a new layer for that and call it Yogi. 6:30 p.m. Oh, the monsoon season started. Oh, so the sunset at 6:30. Wow, that's early. Well, that's like us in winter, I think. Wow. It's a really long night. Yeah, I like it when the sun sets really late so you can do a lot of things in the evening and it still feels bright. Because when it's really dark, I just feel like being home. Okay. I have a layer for the hair details. I'm going to use the pencil looking brush. I'm gonna make it really small, like 4. More or less like the same size that I had the line art, or even smaller maybe. And I'm going to choose the color of the hair and select a lighter version and a darker version. And I'm going to add some random strands there, but it doesn't look too perfect. I want to add some randomness to it. Change my mind, I'm gonna make the brush bigger. And this time I'm also going to paint a little bit outside of the character mask. That's why this is on its own independent layer. And you want to not overdo this effect, because if you do too many stray hairs, it looks like the character has untidy hair or something. So I try to do a little bit, not too much. Something like this. It's not much, but I think it adds a nice touch. Okay, and I think that's it for today. I'm gonna call it a night and keep going last time. So today we worked on the background, the table, and some of the shading. Next time, I guess next week, I'll I'll keep working on the character shading. I'll do more details on the shading, some effects, and let's see if we can get this looking really nice. Maybe I'm really enjoying working on this. I might not wait until next Thursday. I might stream a little bit earlier because I really want to finish this piece. So yeah, I'll announce it on my Instagram, I guess. Okay, thanks everyone for checking out the stream, for supporting my art, and for asking questions and chatting. I really enjoy that. It's really nice to draw and chat to you as I do it. So yeah, see you soon.